And so, Don, why did you apply for the AVMA Fellowship Program?
Well, I think I was looking for something different. I'd been in a position with the state government in Maine for quite a long time, and I was just looking for a different experience. I'd also been involved in some policy work whenever I went to D.C. on behalf of the U.S. Animal Health Association. I was on the executive committee of that for 6 years, and so when I'd go down to D.C., I'd always try to visit with my members of Congress from Maine, and that kind of got me interested in the political process and how to kind of advance veterinary issues and agriculture issues in the political process. And I would also, in my job as state veterinarian in Maine, I've been involved in testifying before the legislature on a number of occasions over the years. So I got interested in the political process in that way also. So I came at it in a number of different ways.
That's great. It sounds like you already had a lot of background in it, but how did you feel when you got the fellowship?
Oh, I was thrilled. Yeah, I was because I had kind of timed it. I'd looked at it over a couple of years, and so this was a year that I knew was going to be an interesting year in Washington with the presidential election, first of all, and then second, a new Congress coming in. So all the bills needed to be reintroduced. So I knew that was something. I wanted to be there during that time. I wanted, regardless of who won the election, I thought being there for an inauguration would be really interesting. And also the reintroduction of bills and new legislation that would come in a new Congress and new members. And so I just thought it was going to be a really exciting time to be in D.C., as opposed to coming in the second year of a Congress. So that's one reason. Yeah.
Well, good. And can you tell us a little bit about the work that you currently do and which office you're in?
Yeah, I'm in Senator Susan Collins' office. She's a senator from Maine, a Republican senator from Maine, but's considered to be a very middle of the road Republican, middle of the road moderate Republican. And I had met with her previously on a visit to D.C. and met with her staff previously, so I knew a little bit about her. And in her office, I've been working on a variety of issues related to agriculture, food safety, public health, animal welfare, farm bill, dairy policy. So a fairly broad spectrum of issues surrounding agriculture and public health. So that's where I've been this year. Yep.
Okay. And what do you think has been your favorite experience so far as part of the fellowship program?
Well, I think as far from a policy end of things, I think working to get an amendment included in the Farm Bill we've been working on dairy policy in the office for practically the whole time that I was there, from the fall through the inauguration and the installation of new members of Congress. So we've been working on some dairy issues with a couple other Senate offices, and the fact that we got a pretty significant amendment included in the body of the Farm Bill, so that it didn't have to be an amendment; it was included in the manager's package, and so that gave me an understanding of how things worked through the committee process, and so that was I think was a fairly significant accomplishment for our office, and also it helped out the dairy farmers in Maine, where I've been quite active with dairy farming in Maine in my previous job. So I was happy with that.
Okay, and and it sounds like that was a good learning experience. And what other skills do you think you've gained over the course of the fellowship program?
Well, I've kind of learned a lot more about how Congress works, how the Senate works. I think my writing skills have improved. They weren't terrible to begin with, but they've been refined quite a bit since I've been down there. I've done a lot of writing, and I've had a lot of my writing has been subjected to a lot of editing, and so that's actually been a very good process. I've learned how the details of moving memos and vote recommendations and through my office and how that happens. So that's been a very interesting process. And collaborating with other offices, collaborating with other senators' offices on either side of the aisle has been a great experience too. So, and then there have just been some really cool things that have happened, like inauguration, which, that wasn't part of the fellowship, but I was able to attend the inauguration. My wife came down for it, and we stood outside for 5 hours in the cold, but that was really neat. And then one night the Senate considered a budget resolution, which they hadn't done in 4 years, and so we, meaning we, my office, and all the other offices, participated in what was called a vote-a-rama, which was where almost, I think, 300 or 400 amendments were introduced, and then some of them were voted on over the period of a day. So from 8:30 in the morning until the next morning, we stayed there all night in our office. So when the Senate finally voted on the budget, it was 4:45 the next morning, and so we left. I left my Senate office at 4:45 in the morning as the vote was taking place, and got home at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. Went to bed for a couple hours and got up. So that was a Friday night. So that was a really interesting experience, because the kind of thing doesn't happen very often, very rarely. So I was kind of happy to have participated in that.
Well, it sounds like such a cool experience. So what would you recommend to someone who's thinking about the fellowship program as something for their own career?
Well, I think it's a fabulous program. I commend the AVMA for supporting it over the years that they have, and I'm glad that they do it, because I think it gives Congress really needs science. Not a lot of people in Congress understand science, and more specifically, veterinary medicine. It's great to have a presence, veterinarians in positions of policy advisors down there in Washington. And then in a lot of cases, veterinarians stay on. And so there's a number of veterinarians who have been fellows and who then stay on and work either on the Hill or in the executive branch, or maybe in other lobbying organizations and that kind of thing. So I think that's a fabulous way for veterinarians to gain some insight into the process and then decide, well, this either is for me or it isn't for me. But it's very beneficial to members of Congress to have that kind of expertise in there. So I would encourage anybody who is so inclined to think about doing that to apply, and we've always offered to talk to anybody who wants to, who is thinking about doing it. So that offer stands, no matter what. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for doing this.